really our sales season kind of starts from October. And then we joke, 80% to 90% of your seats booked by January 1st.
Welcome to Around the Farm, the podcast about all things ag. And hey, Happy New Year and welcome to 2025. Really excited to keep moving forward. And, just to even touch on it, this is our 99th episode. 99. But we got the 100th episode following this one. So really excited to see where we go and surprises ahead on who we have on that episode.
I think 99 is a better number anyway. And to really champion that 99 spirit, we brought a really special guest, Kyle Allen, Channel Seed Pro, to talk about all things from, the regional brand channel merger to new things in digital ag that you're using with farmers. So let's get right into it.
Well, hey, let's start with how we know Kyle.
Okay.
And maybe, a little bit of our history. I'm excited, but for me, because I think your history might be a little longer with Kyle, but for me, I met Kyle when I first was pulling down the driveway to sell you this thing called FieldView.
Yep, many years ago.
Many years ago. We had a lot of fun with that. So got to work with you then, and then also got to work with you in a different landscape when I was a part of the channel brand. So we had some fun together.
Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to channel, because you've had a long journey to being one of the best seed pros.
I'm legacy. I was in the meeting, actually. I started out with crows. So when I graduated from college in 2009, I took a job as a DSMT, and they put me in Central Missouri, and I was a crows DSM. And I was at the meeting in Des Moines when Don Funk stood up in front of everybody and said, I got this vision, I got this plan. We're going to take 3 brands. So we took Crows, Midwest, and NC Plus, rolled it into Channel Bio. That was in 2010, and became a Crows DSM, kind of transitioned in the channel side. The local FFA job, it came open at Troy, and my degree from Mizzou was in ag education.
MIZ.
Yeah,
ZOU.
Yeah, we beat Kansas, so that's a big deal.
That's a real big deal.
But took the ag teaching job, and then kind of sold seed on the side with my dad. My dad at the time was probably 73, 74, and seed business was growing even though I was teaching. So it was kind of cool how we did it. I would teach during the day, and then I would call my dad and say, set farmers up at night, and we'd go see farmers at night. And seed business grew. DSM at the time is still one of my best friends, Brad Eisenbath.
Yep.
And him and Dad were kind of managing my business while I taught. And Brad came to me and was like, hey, dude, you've gotten so big. You kind of need to make a decision. Do you want to kind of stop this seed deal? Or I think you need to do it full time. And I retired from teaching, and I taught for about 4 years, and then I decided to do seed full time. And it was me and Dad, but as the business kind of evolved and transitioned, Dad just couldn't kind of take care of the paperwork. I mean, he doesn't even know how to turn a computer on. So, Dad's like, you run with this, and looking at today, 2024, my business has grown. It's a machine.
Yep.
And primarily corn and soybeans in Hawk Point. We do a lot of wheat as well in the fall for guys, but it's a great business. It's been a wonderful ride, great people. That's one thing that I'll say about the channel brand. Both of you being a part of it. Andy was an intern under us.
In 2013?
Yeah.
14.
Wow, it's a long time ago.
Yeah,
I was an intern and a trainee. Got to learn, like a lot of people have, being in that St. Louis area, you're kind of like a funnel for a lot of people that go through Monsanto Bayer.
Yep.
They, go out to your shed. They get to experience how you work with customers. And I would definitely say I've benefited from that myself.
Yeah. And that's what's cool about being so close to St. Louis is you get a lot of people from the company. And I enjoy having them. It kind of opens their eyes to actually production agriculture. But it's cool that, you've seen Andy's career grow, Tom's career grow. Back to what you said, our legacy. What me and Tom have done together when Climate started.
That's right. Moving drives.
Yeah.
Drive 1.0s.
What Climate has grown into is just amazing. And to see the people that have been involved with Climate, it's cool to see their career path too.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. I actually remember, so I was looking at my phone. This was like a month or two ago, and you have your Snapchat memories. And 8 years ago on that day, I was installing a drive with you on famous Verlin Schultz's John Deere Combine. So
8 years today.
I know. And here we are now with the drive too.
That history can always be dangerous on those.
Can.
You can. But no, that's exciting. And even shoot, I remember too. I think it was Hillary and we brought out a group from St. Louis, right? A lot of folks had never even been to a seed shed in general, and we had a great crew and a really good time. And you hosted one heck of a day for everybody to just understand a little bit more how everything's happening in the seed business, which I think is a good transition too. I mean, we're in January right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? What are you doing right now? What's keeping you busy, and how are you preparing for planting as we get closer and closer? Hard to believe, but closer and closer to April, May, depending where you live. Maybe even sooner for some if you're in the South, right? But what are you doing to
Well,
plan?
Andy texted me. He's like, "Hey, get here at 10:50," and I texted him. We were unloading corn, and we've had probably 4 to 5 loads come in. We've got bulk beans coming in.
Okay.
So our facility, we've got about 18,000 bulk storage. Well, we filled 2 bins, and we've got another 2 coming next week. But corn's coming in. Not only did we unload seed this morning, I met with a customer, went through his order. What's great about my business is I'm a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think the gentleman that was sitting in my office was probably in his mid-70s.
Yep.
I get asked that a lot. What's the average age of the farmer that you work with? And I'm like, probably 60 to 70.
Mm-hmm.
If you can work with a young guy, man, it's fun. I mean, those guys are, they're in depth, they're progressive and everything. But you sit down with a guy that, has been doing the same thing his whole life for 30 years. It's hard to get him to change. It is. I mean, it's what technology has done in the last 5 years is remarkable. I mean, now the guy sitting at my desk this morning has a flip phone still. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Gotta love that.
Yeah.
Good razor.
yeah. I mean, it's unreal that people think that there's so many young people. Now, if you get away from my area, yeah, I mean, there's some really progressive young farmers, but in our neck of the woods, I mean, the average age has got to be 60 to 70.
Yeah. The average age in the U.S., I think, is 58.1. I was working on something last week and I saw that number. So it's 100% true. But I think that's why you look at a lot of those people and they lean on their advisors or dealers like you so much. And I remember this was a couple months ago, we took our new chief of product out and she met with a couple different farmers and then she met with you. And every single farmer she asked, how do you choose hybrids or how do you plan what you're going to do next year? And every one of them to the number just said, I don't know. I just tell Kyle I need X number of acres of corn and beans, and Kyle picks it out. So how do you, being a younger person, I guess technically, and working with those farmers, how do you develop that level of trust with them to,
It's a good question.
for them to give you the keys to the operation?
Yeah, and my wife tells me to stop saying this, but I always tell my wife I'm a kid, and she's like, "You're not a kid. You're 37." And I'm like, Kate. I always tell her all the time. I'm like, they look to me. I mean, they look to me for advice. They look to me for direction, and I'm humble. I mean, I'll be very. I tell everybody that I'm very straightforward. Just in our small town, I mean, there's 6 seed dealers. 6. I mean, a town of 612 or something like that.
Yep.
I mean, they pick me, which is, I'm very humbled by it. We have a great support staff between FSRs, agronomists. We're testing products. We're walking guys' fields. I mean, I tell a lot of my customers, if I'm not in your fields 2 to 3 times a year, I mean, you'll see me. I've got crop scouts. I've been fortunate with, we hire interns every year to help us. I want to get a second eye, a second glance on what we're doing and what we're selling a customer, because you always encounter problems. Always. This past year, wet spring.
Yep.
It rained the whole month of June, and and then you transition where it just turns off and gets dry.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen things this year that we've never seen, but it's good to, I guess it's a funny saying, but have boots on the ground.
Yep.
And you essentially become a partner with them, and that's a big deal to me.
We've known each other for my entire life, but you look at our town of 600 people. It is interesting to me how many people stay in agriculture and then have that community type sense. Like there's you, me, Brad. I mean, there's my sister also works for Bayer, who's on the last episode. It's I'm encouraged by rural small towns. Like your Twitter bio's Hawk Point Mo guy. Yep, that's me. I mean,
Hawk Point Mo guy.
It is encouraging that there are people that want to stay in agriculture and then build that community to help farmers.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that 100%. And any chance that I have to go to talk to FFA kids or 4-H clubs, you're gonna move on in your career, and you're gonna get an unbelievable job. And what I tell a lot of kids is that if you have the opportunity to come back to your hometown, and it doesn't have to be working in agriculture, but come back to our community that supported you. And we were fortunate enough at the Troy FFA.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a legacy, and I'm very humble to be, and I've said that twice now. I love being in my hometown. I love seeing people be successful, and if they have the opportunity to come back, it's just cool. It really is.
Yeah.
And your family too has been well involved in Hawk Points.
Yep.
Since you were a kid, right? I mean,
Yep.
you're running the auction business now,
Yeah,
and
I am.
Maybe you can chime in a little bit about that. I mean, that's when did your dad start the auction business?
So my dad started in the auction business when he was about 15, 16. One of his first auctions was his grandpa.
Okay.
And he auctioned the wholesale. Daryl Mort, local celebrity.
Oh, yeah.
in,
Local celeb.
Troy, Missouri.
Shout out.
Daryl told me the other day that he worked the ring for my dad for years and many sales. But dad started that. He went to auction school. He sold in Mexico, Missouri.
Okay.
There's a sale barn in Mexico. That's where dad, kind of started his career. And then he transitioned and my dad would tell you that most of the money he ever made was in the 80s. 80s and 90s when production agriculture was rough.
Yep.
High interest rates and a lot of farmers couldn't make it. So dad had, farm sales. I mean, out of 7 days a week, he always said he had 4 to 5. He had a partner, Charlie Nardwall. They were in the business for 26 years. As their careers changed and evolved, I got a brother named Scott, and myself and Scott had, goals of being in the auction business too. So dad started our own company together, and my dad is a Hawk Point, Missouri legend.
Oh,
yes. I always loved riding with my dad, and you'd be all across Paris, Missouri, Centralia. You can take him anywhere, and he'd point and said, I had a farm sale there, had a farm
That's
sale
awesome.
here and everything. And my dad always knew machinery. You could ask my dad what a John Deere 4440 was worth with 4,000 hours, and he could get it exactly. But if you asked my dad when my birthday was, he couldn't
You didn't
tell
know it.
He'd say June 20th. I'm like, nah, Dad, it's actually February 20th. I mean, you're just a few months off.
Yeah.
Well, the day was right.
Yeah. But my dad is a legend in our small town community. So
you've been enjoying running the business then?
yeah, it's been a transition. My dad passed away about a year ago, and then my mom followed suit. She passed away 26 days later, and it was always Dad's dream. He's like, I don't know if you want to do this. That's up to you. Your seed business is absolutely unreal, but the auction side, we had a big consignment sale last Saturday. We had close to 2,000 people there. States from, people came to buy machinery from everywhere, and I love it. It's kind of it's a way that I can still touch base with my customers because they come and buy machinery, but it gets my mind off the seed business for a little bit, and then you're back at it.
I've told my neighbor he needs to go to one of your auctions. He's looking for a little bit smaller tractor where he could pull a mower, and I'm like, hey, Kyle's your guy.
Yeah, we had about 60 tractors on the last sale and machinery on different islands, and we had machinery from Illinois, Iowa. We're starting to get machinery from like China, from Canada.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean we sell that, and it's just a different way to be in the ag industry, and it's cool. I enjoy it.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
you're always doing something, even in the off season.
Yeah.
So you talked about getting deliveries in. So you already have, commitments from customers. I'm always interested. What % of your book of sale do you think is booked the year before? And how do you approach a sales conversation?
I love the mothership of Bayer. I mean, they want you, any sales industry, and I'm not going to single Bayer out, but any company wants you out beating the bushes and all that stuff. And, I've got a philosophy that, guys don't want to be sold in a combine. I mean, my favorite time, I have 2 favorite times a year, is delivering seed and riding in combines. It's just fun. And you get to see your products. You get to see how they're doing.
Yep. The green on the monitor.
Yeah, you get to be with the guys or gals. I mean, I've got plenty of female customers too. But really, our sales season kind of starts from October, and then we joke, 80% to 90% of your seeds booked by January 1st. You have some guys that want to pay for after the first of the year, but you'll still meet with them. But you get their order ahead of time, and acres really aren't changing much. There's mean, I don't know, Andy, you're unbelievable with statistics, but there's not many people getting into farming.
Yeah.
I mean,
the average age is only going up. I think last year was like 57.
I mean, in our area, the conversation when, it's not so much, who's going to start farming or who's going to farm that piece of ground. It's who's retiring and who do you think is going to get it? Andy can tell you, I mean, we're losing farm ground every week to subdivisions. We're losing farm ground. Solar. I mean, we have over
solar's been big.
3,000 to 4,000 acres of solar that has went in. And on a subdivision piece or solar or wind or whatever it is. I mean, I understand both sides. I mean, when you could sell a piece of ground for $30,000 to $40,000 an acre, and you're a farmer and you don't know who's going to farm that ground after you. I mean, I get it. But then on the flip side, again, me being a kid, 37, I got to drive past it all the time.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and to your neighborhood point, I mean, it's wild. I grew up here in St. Louis, and St. Louis County technically ends at the river before you go to St. Charles. But my gosh, I think when you ask people living out even past Wentzville now, you're getting folks saying, well, I live in St. Louis. And that wasn't the case 10, 15, 20 years ago,
absolutely.
Right? And the development has been wild. I mean, especially since the housing market kind of did what it did and just adding in new homes, it's been wild seeing homes go up, driving up 61 or driving through 47, right, over your way.
Absolutely.
Well, you talked about solar, and I think and right, wrong, or indifferent, nothing against it, but I think like Fulter Road, like where my grandma and grandpa always lived and where Dad grew up, there are solar panels now along a lot of that. And it's just changed the way that, it
looks.
The way that it looks and, the area that I grew up in, which things do change. But with like ground becoming harder to come by, how do you see, new technologies, whether it's digital, whether it's, advancements we're making with like things like Precion, how do you see that ranking of importance on a farmer's operation?
Yeah, and I think back, and I'm not going to throw a name out or anything, but I think back to a husband and wife who I met with like 2 weeks ago, and they lost 190 acres to a subdivision the other day. And their comment to me is that we've got to find more ground to farm. We've got to find more ground. I spun it, and I told them, I said, I think that's a great avenue, but I think you need to increase your yield on the ground you got. I mean, that's my own opinion. Fertility, if it's planter maintenance or if it's, yield. I mean, that's essentially how it works. I'm not saying cutting inputs. I sometimes get in the weeds with guys when they're like, I need to cut this, I need to cut that. And it's kind of hard for me to say, you're going to cut the one thing that makes you money.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut fertilizer.
Yep.
Really? I mean, that is a hard pill to swallow. And I understand input prices are as high as they've ever been. The commodity price is as low as it's ever been.
Yeah.
So I told the 75-year-old gentleman in my office this morning, I said, this isn't, the past 2 to 3 months, this is not a seed facility. This is a therapist office. I mean, the mindset and morale of farmers right now is not good. I mean, guys are trying to figure out how we're going to get to 2025 and 2026.
Sure.
It's just tough. I mean, just the overall, happiness of farmers is not good. And back to me being a kid, they look at me and you're like, help me.
Yeah.
I mean, what do I do? I mean, it is unreal how the business has changed. I mean, when you started, you would sit down and talk about price, you talk about hybrids, and that was it. Now a guy will give you full access to everything he's doing.
What do I need to do?
Yeah. I'm spending this on fertilizer. I'm spending this on chemistry. What do you think, Kyle? What do you think? Well, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. It's unreal how things have changed because we've essentially become a partner.
Yeah.
And I mean, my customers know my family.
Yep.
I know their families. I know their kids. And back to Andy's point, I mean, living in a town of 600, I mean, my radius of what I service on my customers is huge because I've got some farmers that are farming ground in like 6 counties. I mean, I delivered seed this past year 2.5 hours away. I mean, they farm from Wentzville, Missouri to all the way to Madison, Missouri.
Yep.
But I mean, it's big farms and everything. But you become a partner with guys, and the digital technology and everything. Which I know we're sitting here and we got a couple guys with Climate FieldView shirts on.
That's right. Sponsored by Climate FieldView.
Yeah,
on the farm.
Yeah. Nice $10 plug.
Yeah.
So,
there you go.
But, the data side and everything is absolutely unreal because my wife will tell you, Jeff and Mike, who work with me, I am terrible with direction. I mean, I can get lost in my own bathroom. So, I mean, you brought me into St. Louis, and I don't know how many streets I turned down the wrong way. And Apple Maps was like going crazy, but hey, I made it, and I seen Andy in the parking lot. But
Andy did say, he's like, you know what, I'm gonna wait out here for Kyle.
yeah, that was genius. I mean, it was genius. But like for me on the climate side, the data thing is absolutely unbelievable. But you take a guy's seed. I mean, you ask him where you're at, and he tells you the farm. I mean, all I got to do is take my phone out.
Right, that's right.
And we're at the Elkhorn 90. Okay, I mean, I remember where it's at, but you kind of get an idea. And when you're sending interns, you're sending guys that work for you to farms they've never been to. I mean, just that piece is cool.
Yeah.
And this. I mean, it's in my pocket, but this phone is unbelievable what climate brings to us.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, we use it for scouting. We use it for dropping pins. It's interesting because guys check up on us. I mean, Ava Kemper, Allison Schneider, all my former interns. I mean, my guys will get on their app and they're like, "Oh, she's been out here." Yeah, you bet. I mean, it's cool what we can use this type of technology for.
Well, it helps build that network like you're talking about.
Right.
I mean, they're looking for as much support as they can get, and it's a way to make them feel better, if nothing else.
100%. And you're getting credit for your work. I mean, you're out there, you're scouting fields, you're working with customers, and it's like, oh, that's cool. He was out there. And shoot, I remember I think it was a soybean protocol or soybean side by side you were helping me out with, and you just drop pins in the field, and that's where I'd go to find where we got. I'd go out my tape measure and measure the rows, and but it made it so simple. It was great.
And a farmer never gives you like a good field. And I mean, farmer's like, I got a problem. Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. Nobody ever calls you and they're like, man, this stuff looks unbelievable.
Yeah, let me get you a pin to the good spot.
Yeah, let me give you a pin to a good spot. I mean, we're out there dropping pins, and then you're taking pictures and you're uploading them and all that stuff. It gives you credibility. And then he could take it into his retailer or maybe it was the wrong chemistry.
Sure.
Fertilizer pass, why is my corn streaks? Well, maybe the anhydrous bar was plugged up or, something wasn't working right. So, I mean, a second set of eyes, it's cool technology. It really, I mean, there's nobody else that does it. And, I mean, it's easy.
What is your favorite feature
Of climate?
of climate?
So I mean, we didn't really discuss it, but we're also precision ag. We're in the precision ag business. Right. We're precision planting dealers and ag leader dealers and all that stuff. But my favorite feature about climate is how we can make everything full circle.
Tell the story.
Yeah. So I mean, if you get a guy to do it, I mean, we always tell guys, good data in is good data out. That is our. I mean, Shane Myers, he's my partner in the precision ag business. I mean, that's what we preach it to guys, that if you put the right stuff in the monitor,
The right hybrids.
I mean,
that's big, right?
I've got one guy that just labels corn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and
My favorite hybrid.
It usually performs pretty well.
Yeah.
Just that corn
I
hybrid.
give him a hard time all the time. I'm like, I don't care if you write 3 numbers. I mean, then I can figure it out. But you can get it full circle, and then we can take that data at the end of the year, and we do a lot of scripting. I mean, we write a lot of variable rates. Shane does an unbelievable job with guys sitting down and just overlap the years of yield data. And, if you can variable rate your fertilizer, boy, it can save you some money rather than flat rate it. And, he does an unbelievable job writing that script. And, it's not like something that they just hand us and we do. We partner with that guy and we, blow it up on a TV, and, he may agree with an area, he may not. But full circle.
Full circle. The other thing too, Andy and I, we've talked about it, but we've both been privileged enough to be a part of the channel brand at one point in our careers. A lot of changes in the last 12 months.
2 years, 3
2
years.
years.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 years. I was there for 2 years. So
Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun, and there were some challenges too. But for the most part, I think everything worked out pretty well. How's that been going? What's been your favorite part of that? Has anything maybe changed for you, or maybe the way you're kind of set up, it wasn't too much of an impact for you, but you did probably get some new numbers that maybe weren't available to you before.
I mean, the big news was combining regional brands into the channel brand. There was some, I think they thought it would be super easy. I thought everything would just be black and white and simple and everybody be happy.
Sure.
But, having that conversation, what I will say is that we have the right people in place to direct that message. I mean, I forgot where I was when I got the text message or email and be like, did you see what just happened? There's no more regional brands. And around me, the one in Missouri was Lewis.
Yep.
And we have some unbelievable good Lewis dealers that came over to the channel
100%.
brand.
Yes.
We picked up hybrids and soybean varieties that I've sold a lot of. I mean, we now have like 115 days. And I mean, how do you sell a guy one? I mean, you want to.
Yep. You want to see it all?
Yeah. And you know, my guys in the warehouse want to hit me with a shovel. I like to sell as many corn varieties as I can. And, you know, one of the best stories of Cody Morris, of Brad Eisenbath, my FSRs, are like, hey, dude, you got way too many corn varieties in this shed. I mean, you got like 26, and they're like, you need to cut it back. So I like variety. I like touching it, feeling it. I like to see the stuff in the fields.
Diversified.
Yeah. But, you know, the message that has been, you know, portrayed to us and the vision is nothing's really changed. You brought on good people. We lost good people. You know, they didn't believe in the direction of the company, but, you know, the good ones stayed with us. I'm excited about the people. They're part of a good brand, you know, which, you know, echo you, Tom. You had a career with Channel. I mean, every year I have 3 to 4 seed companies that beat on my front door.
Sure.
And it's a people business. And, you know, like your guys' careers and everything, it's hard for me to leave the Channel brand when, you know, some of my best friends, Jared Thomas, Jake Schlitt, are helping, you know, lead the drive on it.
That's right. And they've done a terrific job doing so. You can really see the passion in both Jared and Jake, no question.
And there's good people in our company. And I'll echo that with Bayer. And I'm fortunate enough to be from St. Louis. I mean, I get to see them all the time. But, you know, when you have that type of drive and support, that's unreal.
Yeah. Well, and you probably have a level of ownership because, like you talked about, being up there at the meeting with Don Funk whenever the brands were all brought together. I mean, you've been a part of Channel in its original logo and its new logo from, you know, start to finish. And in your shed, you have all your different old seed bags, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you got the Crow's bag in a very distinguished place.
Oh, yeah.
But
Is it in the bathroom?
It's in the bathroom.
It's in the bathroom. I was going to say. I was like,
I wouldn't even say that.
oh, sorry.
It's in the bathroom.
That's a distinguished place.
So we can see it all the time.
Yeah. But, you know, I think your point about the people that are in New Channel, that rings really true. Because I know, like, my friend Zach Lamar, who was a Lewis dealer up in Northwest Missouri, I see a very common thread with the people who are seed pros in that it is a very people-oriented business. And I think I remember your dad being one of the people who, you know, talked about people do business with people that they like.
Oh, yeah.
And they remember why you do something more than what you actually did. And that's something that I've seen being really consistent through Channel Seed Pros. You are an ingrained part of that person's business. They look at you as a part of the operation.
Oh, I agree with you 200%. You know, in our industry, especially the seed, you know, every seed company has got great products. They wouldn't be
there without it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I tell people that, you know, you want to do business with people that do business with you. You know, if it's that partnership or whatever it would be. But, you know, in our little hometown of 6 dealers, you know, that gentleman that was in my office this morning, you know, he was talking about how he buys a little bit of seed from this person, a little bit of seed from this person and me. And I said, thank you. I mean, because I tell everybody, you got to support all of us. I mean, do I want it all? Sure. I mean, everybody wants it all, but there's no reason to have the whole pie. I mean, everybody's got to be in business.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing that you probably don't hear a lot of salesmen say that. I mean, you got to support everybody. And, you know, I always get told, you know, you need to grow, you need to grow, you need to grow. And I have a different spin on that, is that I can only grow so big or I'll stop servicing the people that helped grew me.
Yeah.
Sure. Providing that level of service you provide today.
Yeah. I mean, my dad for years on his auction trailer said service is our specialty. I mean, that was his logo. That was his saying underneath his flag. You know, service is our specialty. And I've drilled that into my head that, you know, there may be people that sell cheaper seed than me, and that's how they get the business, but there won't be anybody that outworks me. I mean, I love coffee. I mean,
that'll help.
I mean, that is an unbelievable product. And, you know, my wife, who is the most supportive lady I have ever met in my life, you know, I have always made the joke that a farmer's wife is a very appreciative person, but, you know, a seed dealer's wife, I mean, she has to put up with so much. I mean, I tell her, you know, usually about middle of March, I gave her a high five and said, "I'll see you in August."
Yeah.
So
you're running.
I mean, that's our time frame, and you know, if you can't service a person in the seed business, they're going to go somewhere else. I mean, it's very apparent.
Yeah. You lose business the same way you get it. To
Yeah.
your point, if you're just cheaper than anybody else, someone's going to come and be cheaper than you. But if you outwork, the only way that you could lose the business is if someone works harder than you. Yeah.
No question. No question.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked a lot about FieldView. We've talked a lot about channel, auction business. You have a couple kids.
I do.
How are they doing?
Good. Claire's 9, Chloe's 6. Claire will be my teacher, and then Chloe is probably going to be a professional wrestler.
Professional
nice.
wrestler.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Do I think either one of them will be in the seed business?
There you go. That's the question.
I don't know.
Auction business?
I don't know. I think
okay.
Claire has admiration to be a teacher.
Okay.
I have no idea what my youngest is going to do. I mean, she could be in the construction business if she wanted to. So, I mean,
I could see her being in the seed business. And you take them,
That's right.
whenever they're off in the
Yeah.
summer, you take them with you.
yeah, she
wherever you
writes.
go.
You know, if Katie's like, "Hey, would you take the girls today?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll put them in the semi when we're delivering beans." And they
Not
may
driving the summer.
No, they ride.
Not
They
yet.
ride.
Not yet.
That right. But you know, our girls, they love coming to the office. They love seeing their dad work. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's cool.
Yeah.
It was always fun just as a kid. I'm sure you were the same way, Andy. Just seeing my dad specifically, seeing him work, I always thought that was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, man, because his office used to be downtown here, and it's a little different childhood. He worked a corporate job, but
Yeah.
I for whatever reason, my brother and I thought the arch was his because the arch was right outside the window of their
yeah.
floor. I was like,
I've never been up the arch. Fun fact
No,
for
really?
Missouri. Yeah, don't like heights.
I think you got to do it anyway.
Actually, it's not the heights. It's the claustrophobia being
the
in the small
pods
thing.
aren't that big
I'm
of a
scared
deal.
to death of heights. Scared to death.
I like natural heights, man-made heights. I mean, I know people that build buildings, and I know some people that are idiots.
Well, the arch is kind of a building.
Yeah, I know. But but I would agree, like, watching, because my mom also taught at Troy, and then
yeah.
she finished teaching at Hawk Point, and she loved teaching at Hawk Point, small town, she only had to drive 5 minutes, but just the community. But then, yeah, my dad, and he watches every episode, so hello.
I love that.
Hello, Dad. But
up,
watching, yeah.
Mr. Fulta, good to see you.
yeah. But he worked at GM, and then watching him now, he got a lathe and a mill, and watching someone good at their craft is enjoyable. And yeah, and I'm sure your daughter's fine watching you talk to old farmers and give them advice.
It's so cool that when the guys that I work with know my kids, and
Yeah.
I mean that's a big deal to me. And we've transitioned to now I'm at the county fairs, we're buying the grandkids of the guys that buy seed from me. We're buying livestock of that, and I take my girls with me, and they get in the pictures and all that stuff. So
Yep.
it comes full circle. The people support me, I'm gonna support them. So
Yep.
I know you guys have asked me questions and everything. So, I mean, what's new with climates? I mean, if you look at a 1 to 3 to 5 year kind of plan, I mean, back to your point, I remember it was just about rainfall. I mean, I've got guys that, they would try to challenge climate, and they'd go put rain gauges on different
It
fields.
was great. It was fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, there's
got
a
rain
customer,
gauges in all four corners, and
there's a customer that lives down off Riverview Drive here in St. Louis that Mike and Harley have been with me for years. And, Mike never believed climate. So what he would do is he'd put a rain gauge like in, 4 different fields, and then it'd rain. And then Mike would race back to his desktop computer, which is in his shop. Maybe he'd call me. He'd be like, "Kyle, climate's off." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "It says I got 3 tenths. I got 4." And I'm like, "Mike, it's a 10th."
Yeah.
it's a 10th.
Oh.
It's right.
You got rain.
That's right. Or
Yeah.
the hail alerts early days, right? It
Oh,
was you'd have people running out to their fields. FieldView said you got hail.
Yeah.
Wasn't even FieldView then. I guess it was Climate Basic.
Yeah.
You got
Basic.
hail. Basic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Basic and Pro, right?
I will say Seth Smoot sent me a bunch of old pictures, and he was like one of the first CBMs that we had.
He was.
And I remembered it from when I was an intern with Channel, the red, yellow, green tractors.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a
Workability.
screenshot, and it was like that they had got 10 inches of rain in the last 48 hours, and it said a red. And he was like, "Oh, really? I shouldn't go out and try to mud something in."
We
got 10
got
inches of rain.
feedback on that too. I mean, rightfully so, because sometimes we'd say maybe a yellow and you got a couple tenths, but the feedback was, you don't need to tell us how to run our. But then you had people when we took it away, like, "Hey, I kind of liked that."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but then you asked about like the 1, 3, and 5 year. So I think
Yeah.
and just listening to the product organization over the next year, a lot of things around foundational capabilities and improvements, and getting data into an account easier and more robust.
100%.
So, good data in, like you talked about, good data out. But then when I think, further out, it's really that partnership with broader Bayer. And I get really excited about things like Preceon, and not to lean on Preceon too much, but to take the data that people have been passively collecting in their accounts for, like, I've got farmers that share data to me that have 12 years of data in their account. But to take that data that they've been collecting a lot of times to share to a person like you to help make a recommendation, and then to resurface it as an opportunity for them to be able to be proactive and say, hey, there's this product that you might want to try, or this practice you might want to start or stop to make you more productive and increase your bottom line.
Yep. I'd say on that too. I mean, I think back when you and I were working together, we had John Deere compatibility and we had Case compatibility.
That was it.
And it was simple. It was kind of nice. Now we have a ton of compatibility, which is amazing, but there's a lot more cabling involved.
Oh,
and
yeah.
once you get it set up, you're good to go, right? But you used to just plug that thing in and plug the drive in, and it just would work. And that's something like Andy's talking about that I'm hoping and I'm looking forward to us getting back to, is that simplicity is, I think, the option. The other thing too, and kudos to you really pushed the Drive 2.0.
Yeah.
I think that is the starting point that gets us back to that simplicity.
And I was going to tease for a future episode, maybe in 2025.
Okay.
There's more exciting things coming with Drive 2.
That's
in
right.
2025.
So not to go into detail, but there are things in the Drive 2 that we're looking to potentially activate and hopefully provide better experience, which we couldn't do with a Drive 1.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
A big thing that I'm passionate about is we've had this data in an account, passive, that you've been using and advisors have been using to make recommendations. I think back to that, the farmers that said, I don't know. I bring the data in so that Kyle can use it and he knows best. But turning that data into an insight that then an advisor or a farmer can go have a new conversation around.
Yep. And lastly, and I'll leave my thoughts with this, but we talked about yield earlier. And I do think Bayer, Channel, our other brands, I think Channel's got some amazing products, incredible products. I do think, though, this jump, like hearing customers riding with you or being out there where it's like, man, my dad never thought he'd see 60, 70, 80 bushel beans, right? He saw 20, 30 bushel beans. Like that's a myth to see 60, 70, 80 bushel beans. I do think that digital tools are going to be the next big push in yield. And it's going to be based on decisions and how you're planting your products. But I do think there's an opportunity there where you could see that. You may not see 30 bushel, but maybe you'll see 2 or 3. And then you learn something along the way. Maybe you can get that 2 or 3, another 2 or 3, and net, you're up 6. So that's something I'm excited to see the future.
Yeah. And not to define product strategy, but I just want to add one thing quickly. And I think you will see coming out of climate, and like we've heard from this conversation, the amount that you and other dealers do for their customers. I think you're going to see a renewed focus on, we've done a great job of making customer-facing tools that you, or farmer-facing tools, I should say, that you as a dealer have used.
Right.
I think moving forward, you're going to start to see a new emphasis on creating tools specifically for you that allow you to do business better with your customers.
Well, and I have no idea. I'll base it off years because there's something new every time with climate. But the last 3 to 4 years with reporting, you would not believe the guys that use climate for crop insurance. These are my acres. This is what we did. I mean, the simplicity of guys that use it is unreal. The days of a notepad. Now, don't get me wrong. I still have a lot of guys that keep a notepad in the truck, or the tractor or whatever, and they write down, these are my acres, and but they double check it, and it's unreal when something's off. I mean, the first phone. I mean, again, back to the point. A guy doesn't call you and say, "Man, climate's working great."
Yeah,
they call you and say, "Man, it ain't working.
It's not working." That's right. Is your iPad up to date?
Yeah, exactly. Or did you unplug the drive?
Did you unplug the drive?
Man, they hate that. They hate that.
It always works though.
Did you unplug the drive? Then they won't call you back. and then you'll see them. They'll come get more seed, or you'll take them another load of seed, and they're like, "Hey, we unplugged it." Or I turn the monitor off.
Turn it back on. Yes. It's the old Nintendo 64 trick.
Yeah.
Just unplug it,
blow on the cartridge, and you're good to go. Well, Kyle, you were kind enough to come out.
Kind enough.
we had to twist your arm a little bit.
Well,
to
you
get
asked
out
me
here.
in like October.
Busy time.
Busy time.
And I'm like, Volta, man, it is like harvest. And he's like, can you just give us an hour? I'm like, I literally have to go calibrate combines. So I'm like, can we do November, get past deer season, maybe December? That'd be great.
Well, hey, you came out to St. Louis and met with us,
Yeah.
which we appreciate. I'm thinking, and Andy and I were discussing, right? Maybe a second episode throughout 25 to see how the year's been going. Maybe we could do it at the bar at your shed.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be kind of fun to do a little off-site around the farm episode.
Yeah. Allen Seed and Service, Gateway Precision.
Yeah.
That's right.
We can see the new signage you got on your bulk bins, which I got to say, Jimmy Kofer, another local celebrity.
local celeb.
Because you had 6 bulk bins.
I do.
And you had 5 where the channel logo was all lined up, and then 1 was just
A little
ever
droopy.
so slightly skewed. And boy, that drove Jimmy wild. And
And
he
you
is
would not believe the farmers that would be like, hey, did you know that your sticker is not in line with your? I'm like, no. Really? I didn't. And then
Never
I'd walk
noticed
out,
that.
And then it'd be like, you're messing with me, right? I'm like, yeah.
That's so good.
But no, I think if we were to have Kyle back on, we should do the right thing, and we travel.
I
this
think
time.
so. I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, a guy from Hawk Point coming to St. Louis, Missouri, down in here and,
Yeah.
downtown. I mean, thank goodness he was standing out in the middle of the parking lot because I'm like, I have no idea where I'm at. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there's Andy. Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
No, we really appreciate you joining us
Thanks for the
today.
invite.
Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
You guys do a great job. I know I said it earlier, but it's cool seeing people that have had a great career with Bayer.
We appreciate that.
I respect both of you tremendously. You've been great partners. You've been great friends.
Mhm.
It's a people business, and I wouldn't be down here if it wasn't for you two guys, and my respect for you.
Well, we appreciate that, Kyle.
Yeah. And I
Really
can
do.
say that, on behalf of us at Climate and also Bayer, we appreciate all that you've done for, the development of Channel, FieldView, Bayer as a whole.
That's right. Every time I've asked you if I could do a trial, you got it. I got a guy. Could I
yeah.
bring a group out? Oh, yeah, no problem. It's never been no.
And it's always like
It's
the
all-
same 4 guys, and they're like, they're like, "What's this for? Are you gonna have a camera crew? And are you gonna put me like on the internet?" I'm like, sure,
Yeah, maybe. We might go live.
Yeah.
No, we do. We appreciate your support too.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for joining Around the Farm. And Kyle, thanks again for coming out here. And as always, Andy, it's just a treat to be with you. I wouldn't want to be with anyone else.
I appreciate it, Tom.
That's
Yeah,
right.
likewise.
just
But
a treat,
just a treat.
It's a treat.
just a treat.
Not a reward.
It's a treat.
Yeah.
This has been Around the Farm, the podcast about all things ag. If it's your first time watching or listening, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button anywhere you get podcasts. This is sponsored by Climate FieldView. And hey, we'll see you next time around the farm.